Hey guys, it's Charles and welcome to Good Clinical, a podcast and YouTube channel dedicated to showcasing the future of medicine and human health. Today's podcast episode is another in our partnership with Te Titoki Mataora, the MedTech Research Translator. Today's guests, we have two, Dr. Julie Choisne and Dr. Haruna Suzuki-Kerr. These are senior research fellows at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute and the Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences, respectively. So please welcome two distinguished researchers who are very heavily involved with Te Titoki Mataora, specifically in their Future Leaders module. So welcome to the podcast, ladies. So we are fairly familiar with Dr. Haruna Suzuki-Kerr because she has had her own podcast episode with Good Clinical previously. But Julie, why don't you provide us with a bit of a background about your research interest specifically and how you got involved with Te Titoki Mataora?
Kia ora koutou. So my name is Julie Choisne, and I'm a senior research fellow at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute, and I mainly work around paediatric biomechanics, which is looking at how children grow, how their bone growth and muscle growth affect their movements, and apply it to children that have bone deformities. And so I got involved with Te Titoki Mataora because I know Dai very well, so Diana Sue. And I got to meet Dai when they started the MedTech Center of Research Excellence with the Auckland Bioengineering Institute. And I got some funding from them. And then, Dai and I went along pretty well. And when she started Te Titoki Mataora and the Health Tech Capability Program, she invited me to be part of the Future Leaders module and say, yeah, sure, that should be interesting. So, yeah.
Excellent. And Haruna, how did you get involved as well? And because we've obviously you shared your background and some of the really interesting stuff you were doing with support from TTM and your research and commercialization. But how did you get involved in the Future Leaders side of things?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me back again, Charles. Great to see you again. So I joined the Future Leaders module at the end of last year. And as you know, my research involves trying to develop a new technology for helping treat sensory neural hearing loss. So I was already part of the Te Titoki Mataora network and be supported in developing my research project. So through my project, I got to know Te Titoki Mataora, and I joined initiatives that were organized by Future Leader modules and really benefited from that and got to know the people. And then last year, one of the Future Leader module member decided to retire from the Future Leader module, and essentially I came in to join the team to fill that spot because I came from the health science background.
Yeah, excellent. So that's a nice little introduction to the two of you. But before we get into the details of the Future Leaders program, I'd be really keen to hear about your insights on the MedTech, medical device technologies ecosystem more broadly in New Zealand, and why we need such a program. Because I've had a lot of conversations on this podcast that really kind of underscore the importance of New Zealand investing in high value industries, whether that be medical devices or whether it be health tech in general, or whether it be biotech, because we can't rely on selling houses between each other, relying on agriculture or primary interest industry to carry us through to the future as a first world nation. Frankly, we need high value industries. We need jobs that people can get paid well. We need to make a global impact. To get those jobs, right? They don't just materialize without without some serious hard work and collaboration. So can you share maybe some anecdotal stories or some insights that you might have about where New Zealand is right now in terms of medtech and where you would like to see that go in the future? So maybe starting with yourself, Julie, to begin with.
All right. So most of what I know about medtech is talking about to clinicians really, and understanding the New Zealand context, because I come from France, so it's quite different. So understanding the New Zealand context, what do they need, what's missing? And because New Zealand is quite a small country in terms of population, but large in terms of surface, it has quite their own issues. So I'm working on children with cerebral palsy. It's 10,000 children in the whole New Zealand, and there's only a few specialists that actually can see these children, and most of them are in Auckland. And so if you think about it, they tell me that the families always have to fly to Auckland to be assessed and see all these specialists to get a treatment plan and everything, and then go back to their country, sorry, to their city or to their home. And it's a big ask because it's children, so they have to come with at least one family member. It just takes a lot of time, and all they need is really sometimes some ridiculous technology that you could do in any clinic really at low cost, but it's not really being developed. And so that's where I try to come in, is to develop very low cost technology, very portable, that can be used anywhere, at home or in a rural clinic or anything, to avoid all this back and forth with all the families. And sometimes families don't even get to see the specialist because they're like, oh, we don't have time, we don't have the money. It's just not very easy. And that's quite, when I talk to other clinicians from other countries, they don't really have that issue because they are big countries. They have lots of these kids. So they put the need, like they put, I don't know how to say, but they put the money for them. But here it's quite, not very developed. And so there is this one research that I'm doing where it's quite simple. It's these kids, the kids with cerebral palsy, they need what we call ankle foot orthosis. So it's like splints to help them walk a little bit more normally. But these splints are made in the US because we don't have the technology to make them here. And so they go see the orthotist, they get a casting, then the casting is sent to the US, and then the US make the orthosis, wait to have so many, then they ship a big box back to New Zealand. And so some of these kids have to wait 3 months to get their orthosis. And then they grow out of it and they need a new one. And you're like, and so we're developing some technology where you can easily 3D print. Easy peasy. You scan, you print, and you go. So things like that. And that's why New Zealand really needs us to make this technology very specific for New Zealand.
Yeah. So like a custom made approach to solving very New Zealand specific problems.
Yes.
Really interesting. So yeah, I mean that's super interesting because I've had a few discussions with different people on the podcast about the access to different, whether it be medical interventions, medicine, access to medical devices, what have you, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots, if we can put it as bluntly as that, based on geography, is a real issue in New Zealand. Whether it is access to new drugs, whether it is access to better clinical opportunities. And now I'm hearing it's in pediatrics for patients with cerebral palsy getting access to splints. Remarkable. So it really is across the board quite a unique issue that we're facing in New Zealand, being small, but as you mentioned, very large geography for a small population. Yeah. And Haruna, from your side, what kind of inspires you to be a part of from your experience, to be a part of the Future Leaders module?
Yeah, so my answer to that's quite different to one Julie just mentioned. So, I come from biomedical background, and our project is trying to address this need for new treatment for sensory neural hearing loss, which is a global biomedical gap. And so what we want to do is we want to do something that's quite competitive and we want to have that competitive edge against what else is happening in the space globally. And when you go to like overseas conferences, like a big countries like Japan, where I come from, or States, they have a huge biomedical science funding pot and huge institutions like biomedical science institutions with a lot of different models and facilities available. So they have a huge resource, but we really want to do a work that can compete against theirs or make a real contribution from here with less resources. And in that sense, innovation and MedTech really builds on the strengths that New Zealand already has as a culture for us to help stay competitive in that global stage. So, for example, New Zealand is a small country, but people are really know each other quite well within the country, and they have a really friendly, collaborative, open communication culture. So, instead of going out far across the city, just across the city, there's clinicians and engineers and different expertise are really close together, and being able to form a multidisciplinary team with just a close neighborhood and everyone's willing to collaborate together, I think is a real strength in New Zealand. And that's got such a good match with innovation and developing new ideas towards like a technology and a solution. So my hope for this medtech is that that's really a pathway that help us, the hearing research, stay in the front line of that global effort while building on the New Zealand strong culture that we have here.
Yeah, I love that. I think I think we all discovered during COVID and being, a lot of us being billeted into our houses and working from home, it was quite nice in the short term. But over the long term, you miss out on the collaboration, the rubbing shoulders with people, the friction that comes with close proximity to other people who are, living, breathing people doing their own things. I mean, how much inspiration and collaboration comes out of that. And I've noticed that really personally, that when you don't have that tangible collaboration, rubbing shoulders, that interpersonal friction, that you lose a lot of creativity and you definitely lose a lot of collaboration. A lot of, when you're working together for a common goal, like you mentioned, Haruna, all the different, multidisciplinary teams are required to solve these problems. And you don't really get that unless you're actively working together, whether it's in one organization or a multitude. Inspiration strikes more frequently when people are working together as opposed to separately. Yeah. Okay, so let's pivot to the health tech capability module and specifically the future leaders. So Julie, do you want to provide us with a bit of an overview of what the modules are, and then we can talk about the future leaders one specifically.
Yeah, sure. So I can talk about how did it started. So the MedTech Center of Research Excellence, and I think the Aotearoa Plane project came to an end at one point. And Peter and I just talked to each other and they said, well, why don't we start our own thing? And they started Te Titoki Mataora. That was part for the RAP funding and part about health tech capability program. And that health tech capability program was all about upskilling the researchers, entrepreneurs, clinicians, industry to be better. And so there's different modules, and one is the future leader modules. And it's all about, at least that's how I take it, because I think we have all our interpretation. But for me, it's about giving some opportunities to researchers and early career researchers to develop to be the best they can be. and be the best they can be as leaders, but also as researchers or entrepreneurs, which whatever they want to do. But also giving them a safe space to learn. I've done lots of capability programs, and I found out that if you have professors or very senior people, you don't feel as free to ask dumb questions or have weird ideas. You feel a bit shy, especially I'm an engineer. So it's very difficult to get me out of my comfort zone. But if you have a safe environment where you feel like people are the same as you, there is nothing dumb to say, then you learn from each other. It's much better to learn that way, or I feel like it's nicer to learn that way. So we have different workshops, but one that I really like is the Te Tītoki workshop, where we develop with Iwi United Engaged our own program just for early care researchers, 2 days program just for us to create a safe space and ask anything we want. And you would see that, or at least around ABI, we have lots of young researchers that come from different countries, just like me. I'm from France. And when you arrive here, you don't really understand the history and culture around Maori. And so having that program that explains to you the inequity that is happening, colonization and all that, it's very interesting. And you can learn in a very safe way. So, yeah.
Excellent. And Haruna, from your perspective, what's the future leaders specifically? What's the purpose with that one there?
Yeah, so Tautoko Julie, as Julie said, Future Leader module really runs these initiatives to support emerging researchers, and particularly for us, that Future Leaders covers the emerging researchers' perspective. And what we mean by that is, for example, people really early, finishing their PhD program and becoming the new research fellows, to people who have just finished PhD and went through that transition from being a student researchers to full research fellows, and the ones that are sort of maturing from research fellows to senior research fellows, trying to develop their own research and developing their leadership skills, trying to secure fundings independently. So that's the type of people we are trying to serve and support. And that future, the emerging researchers' perspective is really, really important, because we do have a number of challenges that comes from being that I guess enthusiastic, but sometimes inexperienced group. Like writing your first few research grants can be really, really challenging. A lot of other things are going on in your life, like your future career planning and family life planning. You're not as experienced as professors in terms of forming collaborations. It might be the very first project that you have to manage as a leader. Is just starting. So there's a lot of challenges and very acute learning curve at that career stage. And Future Leaders module is really there to bring that particular perspective to the Te Titoki Mataora. So some of the initiatives can be designed really to support that emerging researchers. And I think it's super valuable so that we can feel supported and we can grow up as fast as we can and make contributions.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the industry or researchers don't need to feel like they have to go through the whole gambit on their own, right? Like other people have done these things before. They've built careers, or they've commercialized their technology, or they've built fantastic research careers, and they have a lot to impart on the next generation, right? So there'd be quite remiss if there wasn't such a module or a program in place that was imparting all this expertise or this knowledge, or liberating these insights from people that have been there, done that, to the next generation.
Yeah, and it's really hard because, when you are being trained as a researcher, you learn this much, but suddenly you become an emerging researcher and you have to have a lot of different soft skills. I don't know if that's been your experience, Julie.
Yeah, I think what I learned the most is taking my scientific language and translate it into a language that everyone can understand, like media training or elevated pitch training, where you have to have a broad audience that don't understand all the technical terms you're using and how to make it easier on your audience. Yeah.
I always find it funny that you have to almost unlearn the language of science to be able to communicate it to a wider public, right? If we're talking scientific language, it's always caveated because we understand that we'll never know things fully. We'll know things well enough based on the richness of the data that we have on hand. So everything is caveated with like would suggest that, or as far as we know. There's never absolute terms. The world runs on absolutes, which is I always cringe at when you hear people talking on, politics or whatever. It's all absolute terms, but nothing is absolute in science. But you have to find the middle ground, right? Communicate with language that people will understand well enough without the caveats of our scientific narrative.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Yeah. What have been some of the I mean, you mentioned the cultural significance and also the media training. What other modules have been particularly helpful, do you think, from the emerging or the future leaders program?
Oh, whoa. So for example, this year we started with a kick-off seminar series to invite some experienced speakers and give us a soft talk on their journey for the medtech research that they have led, but also some advice to emerging researchers to set a scene. So that was really helpful. And one thing, and that was followed by us trying to facilitate some networking sessions because the networking and forming a new friendship and collaboration between emerging researchers is so important. And I think the networking opportunities where you can meet people in a similar career stage is actually really, really valuable because we tend to have the same problems that we can discuss, and we find it really easy to connect with each other.
Mm. Oh, interesting. And what about you, Julie?
Um, then I think because I'm staying a little bit on the side, right? The next one we had was the Maori competency workshop, today's workshop. Um, and next we have one that I really liked last year. It's with Creative HQ, and it's a 2 days program. And to facilitate it, we try to bring everyone outside of Auckland so that they cannot be in and out. So, really isolating people around Auckland Airport so that we get people from outside of Auckland and the ones that are in Auckland but away from the university, from their work, and put them together. And we try to group people based on their expertise or what they need for their own project. Or we invite a whole project group to work together on each of their projects. So usually you have 5 groups of 4 or 5 people working on individual projects. And you have these facilitators, so Creative HQ, that helps you understand what the project is about and how to develop the impact of your project. Because when you write a grant, it's all about what's the impact. That's the biggest goal, right? We sometimes we are too much into the methodology and the science and we work or not, but we forget the bigger impact. Why are we doing this? And so they help you to navigate what's your impact, ask yourself the right questions. Um, then they think about your end users. So they really take you the time and give some tools to really form out all these questions that you need for grant writing. Loved it. And the last one is we're in 30 years and your project, your idea, your company is booming. Write an article about how it was created and what happened in these 30 years. So really to bring your impact around that and your vision. It was really nice, really fun. And we're doing it again this year in September.
Excellent. Yeah, I can imagine coming from an engineering or a science background. I mean, I myself did a science degree, Bachelor of Science, then a master's on top of it. And yeah, I can imagine if you're an emerging researcher or you're interested in commercialization, the gap in knowledge and understanding of business and business and communication and like legal aspects or fundraising, even something as simple as, I don't know, registering a company. These are all things that someone
Oh my
that
God,
someone who
I'm
is
just
interested.
learning that. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all things that you have to throw into your toolkit to be a good, I mean, researcher or someone who's going to be involved in commercialization. And it would be, again, if you have to relearn the wheel, as a lot less efficient than if there is a group of people that have been there, done that can impart their knowledge and help you along the way. I think it's really, really cool. Maybe to finish up, what is your, maybe again, kind of bouncing off that idea that Creative HQ provided on the 30 years in the future, writing a article about the company being started, what would you want the kind of the article written in 30 years to be about on the Future Leaders module? I mean, what do you want for the future of this program? Maybe starting with yourself, Haruna. Oh, Julie, go ahead. You sound like you are ready to go.
Well, because I've done this exercise, not on future leaders, but I'd love to hear from all the people we impacted, like thinking about them being full professors or selling their startup to a big company and making millions of dollars. I'd love to see what did they become and how successful they've been. And maybe we had something to do about it. I don't know. That's yeah.
Yeah. Haruna?
Yeah, totally agree with Julie. I want the New Zealand to be, the place in the country known for the innovative and amazing science and technology. And we actually already have quite a number of successful, biotech and health tech companies emerging and making worldwide impact. So hopefully that will just grow and everyone will follow. And that's going to be the amazing culture here.
What I love, if you look back over the last maybe 10 years of MedTech, the various iterations that Diana and Peter Hunter have really spearheaded, it has evolved gradually. You've got different entities, and then along the way, these companies that have spun out. And we can all talk about the real success stories, the likes of Alimetry or Katea Health. There's countless others, but those come to mind first off. And obviously Fisher and Paykel, that they've been around for a very, very long time. But all these companies, they're part of a succession plan. They're almost like the vanguard. They are the ones charging ahead, leaving behind an opportunity for other people to follow in their footsteps. And over time, a bit like in biology, the succession, there's more diversity, there is greater biomass, there's more heft, there's more interesting things happening over time. There's more complexity. And I think it really speaks to the beauty of what's happening here in New Zealand, and hopefully what will continue on into the future, to what you said, Haruna, being New Zealand becoming a real hotbed, or a really well known for the exciting, both fundamental science that does take place, but also the companies that are spun out and began their journeys in this little old island nation of ours at the bottom of the South Pacific, which is quite cool.
Oh, it's going to be where everyone wants to be.
Well, it's already like that, I feel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what more could you want, right? Like, it's the first world nation, beautiful beaches, you've got Alps, you've got, fairly good jobs, fairly expensive houses. We hopefully can work on that, but great place to be. And maybe to finish up, how can people get involved if they've got an interest in furthering their careers, whether it be, again, in fundamental science or building on that toolkit that we talked about for someone who's interested in commercialization? How can they get involved with the various modules?
Yep.
Haruna, that's for you.
Go for Haruna.
Oh, is
yeah.
it? Yeah, well, Te Titoki Mataora team is amazing, and they've got this website that all of our initiatives are advertised very openly. So if you go for Te Titoki Mataora and go to the event page, all the future leader module initiatives are also listed there, and you can find the information. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll receive a weekly newsletter, which also covers the future leader. And if you have any question, please do get in touch with Julie, myself, or any of other future leaders. We've got Grace Walker from Tautoko Tech, we've got Hamid Abbasi from ABI, we've got Shikha Chowdhury from AUT, and we've got JDM McCarthy from Victoria. So we've got future leader module teams everywhere that you can contact.
Excellent. Are there any prerequisites to take part in these modules? So,
No,
affiliations
and it's
or
free.
expertise? Or
No need of anything. It's all free. So
yeah, excellent.
just
Well, that's
be
fantastic.
free of time.
Yeah.
Right.
So a couple days, take a couple days leave to be involved.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. Julie, Haruna, this has been really interesting. Really interesting to cover this side of things. Again, developing these soft skills, all the technical skills that someone otherwise wouldn't develop along their normal career trajectory, I think is a really important thing. And it's fantastic that you're both involved. Where can people go to find out more about yourselves and maybe get in touch?
cmdt.org.nz. They can find everything there. That's the website.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you, Charles.